London, 1898. A man climbs into a strange iron pod near the river. There's no engine, no tracks, just a long, twisting tube disappearing into the ground. He pulls the lever and vanishes. No sound, no return, no explanation. Then others step inside, and they vanish too. The government seals the project, burns the files, and swears it never happened. But over 100 years later, something is found, still alive, inside that tunnel. Welcome to a new story. My name is John, and I'm the voiceover artist for this channel. Let's uncover the mystery they tried to erase forever. London, 1898. A man steps into a steel pod buried near the river. It has no horses, no steam, no engine, just silence. He pulls a lever and disappears into a dark tunnel. That man was never seen again. But he was only the first. Over the next few days, 3 more men entered the same machine. None of them came back. No bodies, no answers, only whispers in the fog. And then, the project was shut down, buried, forgotten, until now. Because what they built wasn't just a machine. It was a doorway. Thomas Wicks had grease on his hands and smoke in his lungs. He worked the night shift at the edge of the Thames River. Most people thought he was just a street engineer. But Thomas had a secret. He was part of something the public didn't know about. They called it the London Dispatch Tube. But behind closed doors, it had another name, the Hyperloop. It wasn't just about delivering letters. It wasn't even just about moving people. It was about building a new kind of power, a new kind of nation. It all started in 1865, under Queen Victoria's orders. London was growing fast, crowded streets, loud carriages, slow deliveries. Messages could take hours. People could take all day just to cross the city. So a team of scientists, engineers, and royal advisors came up with a bold plan. Build a network under the city. Steel tubes, air pressure, silent pods. They believed they could move things faster than any train. Not on tracks, but in air. Pods would be sucked through the tubes like bullets in a barrel. No noise, no horses, just pure speed. At first, it was used for documents, messages from the palace, war reports, money transfers between banks. Only the highest orders passed through. But the machine worked so well, in fact, they started dreaming bigger. What if humans could travel this way too? What if the Queen herself could get from Buckingham Palace to Parliament in 60 seconds? The race to control the skies hadn't started yet, but the race below the ground had already begun. In secret tunnels beneath London's busy streets, the government built stations. Not train stations, launch stations. Engineers like Thomas worked all night, testing air pressure, sealing valves, measuring speeds. They kept no records. Everything was written by hand, passed in silence. But there was one problem. The pods went too fast. On one test, a steel pod crashed into the end chamber and split open. The dummy inside was torn apart. They called it compression shock. Too much air, not enough space. People started to fear the machine. But the Queen wanted results. In 1871, they opened the first human test, an assistant engineer named Elijah Grind. He was brave. Too brave, maybe. They placed him in the pod, sealed the hatch, pulled the lever. He disappeared in 1 second. The team cheered until 5 minutes passed, and he didn't come out the other side. When the rescue crew entered the tunnel, they found the pod empty. No body, no blood, just a single glove floating in the still air. The project paused, but only for a few months. They told the Queen it was a success, and the machine was ready for more. By 1880, the tubes had grown. They stretched from Parliament to the river, from the palace to hidden depots in the countryside. London had a secret underground highway, but outside the palace gates, no one knew. To the public, the dispatch tube was just a mail system. Old, dusty, slow. But inside government walls, something else was happening. The pods were moving faster. The tunnels were getting longer, and strange readings started to appear on the gauges. Sometimes, the air pressure dropped to 0, with no leaks. Sometimes, the pods came back with scratches on the inside. Scratches that looked like claws. One engineer swore he heard breathing in the empty tubes. They said he was sick. They sent him home. He was never seen again. By 1895, The project had changed. No longer a delivery system. It was something else. A weapon. A portal. Nobody really knew. But one thing was clear. London had built something they couldn't control. And Thomas Wicks, he was about to become a part of it. Forever. Queen Victoria was no ordinary ruler. She was sharp, bold, and deeply afraid. Not of war, not of rebels, but of being left behind. By the late 1800s, the world was changing fast. America was rising. France had started testing strange new rail systems. Russia was experimenting with underground weapons. And London had the Hyperloop. The Queen called it her crown artery, a hidden power under the ground. She believed the nation that controlled the fastest movement would control the future. So she made a secret deal. More money, more tests, fewer rules. Engineers were told to stop asking questions. Just build, just send, just expand. In the basement of Buckingham Palace, a private control room was built. It had thick iron doors and glowing gauges. Only 3 people had the keys: the Queen, her advisor Lord Harrow, and a silent man known only as Director Black. He never spoke. He never smiled. But every night, he sent orders. Extend to Tower Station. Send test subject at 0200 hours. Double speed. No recovery. Nobody knew who he worked for. Not even the Queen. Outside the palace, London looked normal. But underground, the city was turning into a machine. The tubes were now connected to 12 hidden stations. Some ran under rivers. Others passed beneath graveyards. One even reached the sea. Messages between military leaders were being delivered in under 30 seconds. Gold shipments were sent through tunnels instead of carriages. Even prisoners began vanishing from jails, without a single guard opening a door. The Hyperloop wasn't just transport anymore. It was control. The Queen believed it would make Britain untouchable. But she didn't know the full truth, because Director Black had his own plan. Late one night in 1888, a letter reached the Queen's chamber. It was unsigned. No return address, but sealed with wax from the Hyperloop labs. It said only this: "We have gone too far. Something is inside the system now. We opened a path, and it doesn't lead across London. It leads away." The Queen summoned Lord Harrow. He read it twice, then burned it in the fire. "She must never see panic," he whispered. And they told the press, "There's no secret system. The tubes are just for mail." But the truth? The tubes were changing. They pulsed at night. The walls felt warm. And some pods came back full of black dust. Not coal. Not ash. Something else. Something that moved when no one was looking. In one test, a pod was sent from Tower Station to South Bank. It should have taken 12 seconds. It returned in 9. Faster than physics. The inside of the pod was frozen. The metal cracked from the cold. The gauges were broken, but the pod had moved through something. One scientist screamed, "This isn't speed. This is skipping time." He was fired the next day. But the Queen started having dreams. She saw long tunnels under her bed. She heard whispering behind the palace walls. She told her maid, "The air has teeth now." Director Black, however, was pleased. He believed the Hyperloop had unlocked a crack between worlds. Not time travel. Not teleportation. Something stranger. He began calling it the Ghost Line. His plan: expand it beyond London. Open lines across Europe. Link it to the Royal Navy. Use it for war. No more ships. No more borders. Just pods. And silence. By 1890, Queen Victoria's dream was coming true. But it wasn't the dream she expected. A new nation was being born. Not on maps, but underground. And every time a pod launched, something whispered in the shadows. And something whispered back. Elijah Grant wasn't like the other engineers. He didn't fear the tubes. He loved them. He called them veins of the future. He said they would replace streets, trains, even ships. Where others saw danger, Elijah saw glory. He was young, sharp, and always smiling. Too much, maybe, because Elijah did something no one else dared. He talked. In 1891, at a private science gathering in Whitehall, Elijah gave a short speech. He stood on stage in front of ministers, inventors, and foreign spies in disguise, and said the words that started it all. London will fly without wings. We are building speed beyond steam. And one day soon, men will vanish in one place and reappear in another. The room froze. A few clapped. Most whispered. And somewhere in the back of the room, Director Black was watching. That same night, Elijah received a sealed envelope. No name. No stamp. Just black wax. Inside was a single note. You've said enough. Report to Station 9. Midnight. He laughed at it. Thought it was a prank. But his laughter didn't last long. Station 9 was the oldest. Dark, wet, nearly falling apart. It hadn't been used in months. But that night, it was glowing. The lights flickered on as he arrived. The launch tube was uncovered. The control panel was blinking, waiting for him. He looked around. No one in sight. Then, from the shadows, came Director Black. No words, just a nod toward the pod. Elijah, too proud to back down, smiled. He stepped in, pulled the hatch shut. Where to? He joked. No answer, just the sound of a lever being pulled, and the whoosh of pressure. The pod vanished. 10 seconds passed. 30 seconds. 1 minute. No return. At the 2-minute mark, the control room lights began to flicker. A red light blinked on the wall. Unstable route detected. Then, the pod came back. But it wasn't right. The outer shell was dented. The steel had warped like soft clay. And inside, no Elijah, just his boots, and a strange black liquid dripping from the ceiling. It sizzled on the floor, like acid. It smelled like wet iron and burned sugar. No one could explain it, and no one was allowed to. The Queen was told it was an equipment failure. His family was given money, a closed casket, a fake body inside. The public was told Elijah had died in an A-ship crash overseas. But the engineers at the station, they knew better, because every night for the next week, they heard knocking from inside the launch tube. Slow, cold, steady. 1, 2, 3. Always at the same time. Midnight. Then the whispering started. Words that sounded like Elijah's voice, but twisted. Slower, deeper, broken. It's not a tunnel. It's looking back. One man tried to record the sound. His tape cord only static. And when he played it in reverse, he fainted. When he woke up, his eyes were bleeding. He was committed the next day. The government didn't pause the project. They doubled it. More pods. More pressure. More silence. They told the engineers, there is no failure. There is only progress. But at night, some of the engineers met in secret. They called themselves the Sealed Circle. They wrote notes by hand, burned after reading. They shared one goal: find out where Elijah went, and what came back in his place. One of them, an older man named Fletcher, made a simple theory. He said the Hyperloop wasn't moving through space, but skipping around it, like a stone across water. And sometimes, it hit something beneath the surface, something not meant to be touched, something that touches back. The others laughed at first, until Fletcher vanished too. He didn't even take his coat, just gone. And on his desk, a single sheet of paper. Elijah is not alone. By 1892, Director Black stopped using engineers. He replaced them with soldiers, men who followed orders, men who never asked questions, and those who did, they went for a test ride and never returned. But at Station 9, the knocking never stopped. Even when they sealed the launch tube shut, even when they poured cement inside, the guards still heard it. 1, 2, 3. Every night, midnight, and somewhere, deep inside that steel and shadow, Elijah Grind was still knocking, still waiting, still inside. By 1893, the tubes had reached the Thames. Beneath the muddy river, beneath the fog, beneath the boats and bridges, the Hyperloop stretched into the darkness. It was called Tunnel 17. No one talked about it. No map showed it. Even the Queen wasn't told how deep it ran. Only Director Black knew, and he didn't share. The tunnel began at Station 12, near Blackfriars, and it ended in a chamber carved into the riverbed, hidden under layers of stone and silence. The team who built it was small, just 7 men, each of them handpicked, each of them sworn to secrecy. By the end of the project, only 3 were left. The others, gone. No explanation, no bodies, Just gone. One man simply vanished during a night shift. The second fell into the pod chamber and never hit the floor. The third, he walked into the tunnel during inspection and began to scream. Not words, just sounds. High, broken, animal-like. When they pulled him out, he was shaking, eyes wide, face pale. He never spoke again. The survivors tried to warn the others. They said the tunnel was too deep, too long, too dark, that it felt like it wasn't carved by machines, but dug from the other side. No one believed them. Not until the day the pressure dropped. On a cold winter morning, the gauges at Station 12 all went dead. Lights flickered, air pumps stopped, and the pressure inside Tunnel 17 fell to zero. That wasn't possible. Even in an emergency, some pressure always remained. But this time, it was like something had sucked it out. Clean. Total. Empty. Director Black ordered an immediate probe. A drone pod was sent into the tunnel at half speed. Cameras on. Lights on. What it recorded was never released to the public. But one technician saw the footage. He left the room shaking, mumbling. "They're not echoes," they're replies. When asked what he meant, he said nothing. He locked himself in the control room and burned the backup tape. Before anyone could stop him, he was gone, vanished between one blink and the next. Still, Black gave new orders. The tunnel would stay active. The chamber beneath the river would now serve a new purpose. Arrival. Arrival of what? No one asked, because those who asked disappeared. Soon after, strange things began happening above ground. In the buildings near Blackfriars, people started hearing strange noises, whispers in the pipes, knocks under the floors, low, wet breathing behind the walls. One woman claimed her bathtub filled with black water on its own, and inside it, she saw a face. Not human, something pale, stretched, with too many eyes. She fainted. The next morning, her apartment was empty, her windows locked from the inside. Across the river, a man walking his dog near the Thames saw bubbles rising from the water. Not air bubbles, black ones. Thick, slow, like the river itself was leaking oil. His dog growled, then ran into the fog. It was never seen again. At night, guards at Station 12 heard voices in the launch tunnel. Soft at first, then louder. They said it sounded like children, but the words were broken, backwards, wrong. One guard quit on the spot. The other two, they stayed, and both were found the next morning, sitting side by side in the dark, smiling, their eyes gone, clean, as if scooped out. No blood, no pain, just holes. Director Black ordered the tunnel sealed, but the moment the welders arrived, the lights exploded. All of them. The tunnel doors blew open, but there was no wind, just pressure, pushing out like a breath. Cold, rotten, hungry, and in the fog that filled the chamber, someone saw footprints. Small, wet, fresh, leading out of the tunnel, but stopping halfway up the stairs. Then nothing, as if the thing had vanished into the air, or crawled up the wall. The welders left. Black said nothing. He just stood in the dark, watching the tunnel, breathing slowly, and smiling. 2 nights later, one of the old engineers returned. He had been missing for months. His name was Carter. He walked back into Station 12 barefoot, clothes torn, eyes wide. He whispered just 5 words. "It's not a river anymore," and collapsed. He died within the hour. By 1894, the Thames had changed. The water smelled strange. Fish floated to the surface, rotting from the inside. And near the edge of the bank, children said they saw faces in the fog. Smiling faces, with no skin. And still, the tubes ran. The Hyperloop never stopped, because Director Black was just getting started. It arrived with no warning. A plain envelope. No stamp. No seal. Just left on the desk of Lord Harrow, the Queen's closest advisor. Inside was a single page. Old. Yellow. Torn at the edges. The handwriting was shaky, but clay. We opened a door. Not to another city. Not to another time. But somewhere else. Something is watching us now. If you do not shut it, it will step through. The letter was signed with one name. Elijah Grind. Lord Harrow stared at it for a long time. Elijah was dead. Gone for years. Lost in a pod that never returned. But the paper was dated last week, and the ink was still wet. He didn't tell the Queen. Not yet. Instead, he went straight to Director Black. Black didn't look surprised. He read the letter once, smiled, and placed it in the fire. The flames turned blue. Where did it come from? Harrow asked. Black didn't answer. He simply said, "It means we're close." Harrow stepped back. Close to what? Black turned to face him and whispered, "Understanding." Later that night, Harrow tried to leave the palace. He made it as far as the back gate, before vanishing. His carriage was still there. The horse was calm. But Harrow, gone. The guards saw nothing, only the smell of burnt ink in the air. That same night, something else happened. At Station 3, the central control hub, every gauge reset itself. Every tunnel came online, even ones that were sealed, even ones that had no end. The system lit up like it was alive. The lights blinked in patterns, faster, slower, then all at once, as if sending a message. But no one could read it, because every person in the control room fell asleep exactly at the same second. When they woke up 3 hours later, the station's main screen displayed one line: "We see you." The Queen was finally told. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She simply asked for tea, and then ordered all documents about the Hyperloop burned. Every file, every name, every map. She gave a simple command: seal it, bury it, forget it. But it was too late, because the system had already changed. In a dark room beneath Station 5, a pod returned. No one had sent it. No one was waiting for it. But it arrived anyway. Inside was a piece of glass, smooth, round, glowing faintly red. And beside it, a hand, a human hand, still warm, still twitching. But the DNA didn't match anyone in the Empire. It wasn't in the records. Wasn't even possible, because the blood wasn't just human. It had something else mixed in, something that moved, even after death. Scientists begged to study it. Black refused. He kept the hand in a cold box under his desk and whispered to it every night, like it could hear him, like it might answer. Then came the second letter. This one was left at the foot of the Queen's bed. No sound, no break-in, just there, waiting when she woke. It read, "The tunnels are not yours. They never were. You only built the doorway. We built the path." The Queen began to cry, not like a ruler, but like a child. 2 days later, the newspapers reported a small accident near the Thames. A sinkhole had opened beneath a bakery. 4 people vanished, but no one mentioned the black steam rising from the ground, or the strange sound recorded by a street boy nearby. He said it sounded like a heartbeat, slowed down, stretched out, echoing beneath the ice. Soon after, the Queen gave her final order: end the project, destroy the tubes, bury the truth. But before the order could be carried out, Director Black disappeared. Not in public, not in secret, in the middle of a conversation. He was speaking to 3 royal officers, then blinked, and was gone. Only his shadow remained, burned into the stone wall behind him, still standing, still human-shaped, still smiling. The Hyperloop was shut down the next day. Station sealed, maps erased, files destroyed, and the engineers scattered across the country, given new names, new jobs, told to forget. But in dark corners, a few still remembered, and they whispered a name. Not a name in English, not in Latin, not in any known tongue, but something cold, something from the other side of the tube. They said the letters kept coming, still wet, still fresh, written by hands that no longer lived. And at the center of it all, one message repeated again and again. The door was opened. They tried to shut it down. All of it. The stations, the tunnels, the machines, the memories, everything. In early 1895, Queen Victoria signed a final order, stamped in red. The Hyperloop project is to be dismantled, erased, and removed from all official records. Immediately. It was sent to every station, but not all of them received it. Some never responded, and some didn't exist anymore. Demolition teams were sent out. Iron doors were welded shut. Maps were torn down. Giant drills filled the tunnels with cement and steel. In some places, it worked. The machines stopped humming. The air went still. The silence returned. But in other places, the teams never came back. At Station 4, a 12-man crew entered the main launch room. They had food, water, tools, explosives. They sent a message at 8:14 a.m. "We've reached the core." Then nothing. By 9 o'clock, their watches had stopped. At 9:23, their radios went to static. By 10 o'clock, the tunnel was empty again, except for the crew's equipment. All of it, stacked neatly at the entrance, untouched, perfectly folded, still warm. But the men? Gone, as if they'd never existed. At Station 10, something stranger happened. The workers poured cement into the main artery, only to watch it vanish. The cement hit the floor, then sank, like water into dry sand. The tunnel stayed clean, unfilled, unchanged. No matter how much they poured, they brought machines, drills, heat. But the tunnel refused. It wanted to stay open, like it was breathing, like it was hungry. The Queen demanded proof the system was shut down. She was given photos, documents, reports. All fake, because the truth was simple. No one could shut it. Not completely. The Hyperloop was no longer a machine. It was something else. Behind the palace, in a locked vault, was a small metal box. Inside it was the last part ever launched. Blackened, twisted, melted. No one dared open it. But late at night, guards swore they heard tapping from inside, like fingernails or teeth. One by one, the remaining engineers disappeared. Some ran, some hid, some begged for help. None survived. Their homes were found empty, walls torn open, mirrors shattered, but no blood, just piles of salt, left in the shape of a circle, always a perfect circle, as if something had stood there, watching, waiting. The Queen stopped sleeping. She told her servants the shadows in her room were moving, not shifting, moving, like they were alive. One night, she tried to leave the palace in secret. Her carriage made it as far as the garden gate, and then vanished. Guards searched all night. All they found was a piece of paper floating near the fountain. It said, "The crown opened the door. Now let it wear the key." After that, no one saw her again. A public double replaced her for events. The people never knew. They smiled, waved, bowed, not realizing the woman in the carriage wasn't the Queen. Not anymore. The Prime Minister issued a final statement. The Hyperloop system was never real. All reports of underground activity are false. Any information otherwise will be treated as treason. People stopped asking. It was safer that way. But whispers remained. In the dark alleys of Whitechapel, in the pubs near Blackfriars Bridge, old men told stories about tunnels still open beneath the city, about a pod that returned last year, with no one inside, but a heartbeat still echoing, about a station that glows at midnight, even though it was destroyed long ago, about a woman who walks out of the fog, dressed in Victorian silk, but with no face, only skin stretched smooth, like wax. A few brave explorers tried to find the stations again. Only one ever came back. He was found wandering near the old train yard, barefoot, eyes wide. He held a piece of paper in his hand, crumpled, torn. It said, "It's still running. It never stopped. And it's not just London anymore." In 1899, a quiet explosion was heard beneath the Thames. Small, distant, like a door closing. But the fog over the water never left again. It thickened, grew darker, colder, heavy with a smell no one could name. They say if you walk near the edge and listen carefully, you can hear the tubes, still hissing, still turning, still waiting. And if you're quiet enough, you might hear the last whisper. One more ride. The year is 2025. A quiet morning in South London. Construction crews are clearing ground near the Thames, preparing for a new shopping center. They are digging through layers of stone and rust, pulling up broken bricks and metal bones. Then, the machine stops. Not from failure, but because it hit something solid, something round and sealed in steel. At first, they think it's a leftover water tank. Old, harmless, They try to cut through it. The blades break. They try to melt it. It doesn't burn. They try to dig around it. But it keeps going. Deeper. And wider. Like a ring, buried beneath the city. That night, one of the workers returns alone. He takes photos. Videos. Tries to open the hatch with a crowbar. He never goes home. His phone is found near the site the next morning. Still recording. The last few seconds show a shadow. Long, thin, and moving on two legs. But not walking. Sliding. By noon, police arrive. They tape off the area. But by evening, the hatch is open. No signs of forced entry. Just open. Inside, a tunnel. Clean. Dry. Perfect. Not a single spider web. Not a drop of moisture. As if it had just been built. Or just been used. The military is called in. They scan it. No response. No heat. No sound. Until midnight, when the pressure drops to zero. And the tunnel breathes. Just once. Like a sigh. Like it's waking up. A drone is sent in. Cameras live. Night vision on. The footage streams for 12 minutes. Gray walls. Old symbols. Lights still blinking on the sides. Then, the pod. It's there. Sitting silently at the end of the line. Intact. Unmoving. Until the camera zooms in. On the door. Where 3 words are scratched into the metal. By hand. Rushed. Crooked. Thomas Wicks was here. And just beneath it. It's not our world. The feed cuts. No signal. Just static. And then, a whisper. Very soft. But heard clearly through the operator's headset. Send more. That night, 5 crew members quit. 1 collapses. Eyes wide. Repeating the same sentence. The door was never meant to close. The government makes no statement. The site is quietly sealed off. But rumors spread. Fast. Online forums light up. Secret tunnel under London. Old tech still working. Voices in the dark. One post shares a blurry screenshot. A shadow inside the pod. But the shape. It's wearing a Victorian vest. And its mouth is open wide. Not in a scream. In a smile. Experts try to deny it. They say it's fake. They say it's edited. They say the Hyperloop was a myth. But more things start happening. Black fog rises over the Thames. Phones die when pointed at the site. And at 3 a.m. every night, a strange hum is heard under the ground. Always the same sound. Like pressure building. Like something moving through the tubes. Fast. Then one morning, a letter is found taped to the Prime Minister's door. Old. Yellow. Still wet. You tried to bury us. But we remember the path. The ride begins again. The next day, across the ocean in New York, a tunnel collapse reveals something strange. A curved wall. Made of the same metal. With the same blinking lights. And inside it, an empty pod. Still warm. They thought it was over in 1899. They thought the door was closed. But the Hyperloop wasn't a project. It wasn't a transport system. It was a message. And now, it's awake. Where it leads, no one knows. But the pods are ready. The air is cold. And deep beneath the streets of London, a soft knock echoes through the tunnel. 1, 2, 3. Just like before. Would you step inside? Or has something already stepped out?